This is the review packet for 6.4 through 6.6. So we are starting on number 1. We're asked to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Sometimes students struggle with what is slope-intercept form and they're trying to memorize it. But instead of just trying to memorize, just think about these two words. What did they give you? The slope and the intercept, obviously. So which of our equations that we've been working with gives us slope and intercept? It's y equals mx plus b. M is your slope, b is your y-intercept. Okay, and so if this is all given to us, we can just drop them right into the formula, and we are done. So the slope is going to go in for m and the intercept in for b. So for number 1, if I have a slope of -3 and an intercept of 36, my equation looks just like that. And for number 2, if I have a slope of 1, you can put a 1x, but you will just see it as x, and an intercept of 7 plus 7. Moving on to number 3, we want to determine the slope of this line. You can go ahead and use your slope formula, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Make sure you put the y's on top. Make sure that you do go in the correct order. It really doesn't matter how you start, but if you went -2 minus -4 on top, then you would have to go in the same order, 3 minus 0 on the bottom, or vice versa. As long as they match, you're fine. But since this is on a graph, and the graph is counting by ones, it's much easier to just count boxes. It's rise over run, because the y value measures up and down vertical. So it went up 2, it went over 3, and so that's the slope of the line, 2/3. The y-intercept can be located, it's where it crosses the y-axis, so it's going to hit the y-axis right here at -4. And so if we're going to write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form, slope and intercept y equals mx plus b, you drop the slope in for m, so 2/3 x, and then the y-intercept for b. Now, since it's negative, you can write plus -4. We're always going to simplify that down to just -4. So if it's a negative, you're going to write it down as subtraction. Okay, number 6. Again, I want to use the graph. If you want to use y2 minus y1, that's fine. But I can see that this, in terms of its y value, its rise is going up 5. And in terms of its x value, it went from 0 and it's just slid over 1. And this is increasing, so it's positive. So 5 over 1, the slope of the line is 5. The y-intercept, where it hits the y-axis, is 0. And so if I'm going to write the equation of this line in slope-intercept form, I drop the slope in here. And I would put plus 0. Not necessary, though, and so I can leave my answer just like this, y equals 5x. Okay, number 9. This family buys paper towels. There's 12 rolls. Every 5 days, they need to open a new roll from the package. So they're using one roll every 5 days. If this situation were graphed with y as the total number of paper towels left after d days, determine the following. So the y-intercept, the slope. So we're starting up at 12. If this was on a graph, and we're going to stay in the positives if we were going to look at a graph because there's no negative paper towels. When we start here at the very beginning, we're going to be up here at 12. And then over time, this is decreasing. We're going to have less and less paper towels as we use them. Now, a lot of people want to say the slope is -5. First of all, it's definitely going to be negative, okay, because it's going down. The slope is going to be negative. But if we did say it was -5 and we were counting by 1 on our days here, that means it would go down 5 over 1, which means after 1 day, we were down 5 paper towels. And that's not what this is saying. You're down 1 roll of paper towels after 5 days. So if 11 was right here, I'd be down at 11 after 5 days. So what's that slope? That's down 1 over 5. That's -1/5. The other way to think about it is it's taking 5 days to use up 1 roll. So each day, if you split that up, I'm using 1/5 of a roll. 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, until after 5 days, I've used up an entire roll. And so since I'm using it, it's negative, and it's 1/5 of a roll. So the y-intercept is always where you're starting. That's 12. My slope is -1/5. So writing an equation, y equals -1/5 x plus 12. So number 10, similar to what we just did on number 9. So we spent $25 on some party favors, and he still wants to buy some party hats that cost $3 each. So right there I can see that what I don't know in this situation is how many hats he's buying. So that's our variable. So it's going to be $3 times however many hats. And as we kind of just fall into the habit of writing things in y equals mx plus b form, you can kind of see that it's going to be 3x plus something. And if we're talking about total cost, which if we follow along here, if the situational graph with y as the total cost, then we're going to have to add that $25 in for the party favors along with the hats. Okay, and x is going to be the hats. So it's 3 times the number of hats plus $25 for your party favors. That's going to be your total cost. So this is going to equal y, with y being the total cost. And so based on the structure of this, we know that 25 is sitting in the intercept spot. So our y-intercept is 25. And if you think about that on a graph, you're starting at 25, you'll be going up 3. 25 would be if you bought 0 hats. If you don't buy any hats, you're spending $25. And then for every hat, you're spending another $3. And so my slope is 3. My equation is 3x plus 25, which we had right there. And now letter D is actually going to ask you to use your equation. So he purchased 25 hats. A little tricky because they threw a 25, the same number at you, and so sometimes that confuses students. But again, it's hats, which is x. So all we're doing, whatever number this is, we're plugging it in for x, and we're going to solve for the total cost, which is y. So we're just solving for y. And so I'm going to just go ahead and plug in for x the number. It happens to be 25, the same number we already had in the equation. Don't let that confuse you. 3 times 25 is 75. So $75 were spent on hats, plus the $25 for party favors comes out to a total of $100. Okay, graphing these now, given the slope-intercept form, you always start at your intercept. This tells you where it hits the y-axis, so I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. This line will cross the y-axis at 4, and the slope is -2, which is -2 over 1 if we don't have a fraction given to us. Rise over run, it's down 2, and it's always to the right 1. So I'm going down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, all the way across my graph, and that is going to be my line. Always double check yourself. This was a negative slope. Okay, and as I move from left to right on my line, I'm walking down the hill. Okay, I'm good. If by accident you went down 2 and you started going over 1 to the left, you would create a positive slope, where if you started all the way to the left and followed it, you'd be going up. This is going down, so we're negative. We are good. Okay, intercept here, that's where you start. 2 on the y-axis. You're going to use this. It's 3 over 1, so positive, it's up 3, and it's over 1. So 1, 2, 3 over 1. Now, we do need to continue this line the opposite way. So here's where you're going to go left. So you're going to go down 3 to the left 1. To the left 1. And that's where students tend to get confused. Just always double check yourself. After you've written all those dots out, go to the one on the farthest left and make sure it's actually following the positive slope. Up 3 to the right, up 3 to the right, up 3 to the right. Okay, 13, we're going to graph the equation that's given to us in question 9c. So if we flip back to 9c, it's y equals -1/5 x plus 12. So we got to get that on the graph. Now, just looking at this, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. If I count by 2s, I think that's going to be best here. Okay, but you don't have to do it that way. You can count by whatever, but you do need to get up to 12. So if you count it by 1s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you're not going to get up to 12. So at least 2. You count by something larger than 2. And this is talking about days over time. You could go by 1s if you wanted to, but we know it's not going to go down to 11 for 5 days. So we'd get all the way to 5 days and then 10 days, and we would have only gone down 2 paper towel rolls by that time. So we would like to stretch this out a little bit. And so I'm going to go ahead and skip each one and call it 5. You don't have to do it this way. So basically each line is 2.5. Big mistake people make is they're going to call the very first line 5. Then they're going to skip 2 and call it 10. But that's incorrect, because if you went from 0 to 5 in one line, then you have to go from 5 to 10 in one line. So if you do want to space them out like this, then you have to make sure from 0 to 5, you've also skipped a line. So big mistake people make there. The reason I chose 5 is because we're going to be going down 1 every 5 based on that slope, so it's helpful for me. So I know that from 12, or from 0, I'm at 12, And by 5, I'm going to be at 11. So down 1 over 5, don't go down 1 box and over 5, because going down 1 box, you've actually gone down 2 units. So down 1 and over 5. Down 1 and over 5. Not 5 boxes, 5 units. So down half a box, because that's 1 over 5, which is 2 boxes to 15. Down 1 over 5. And my first dot would be at 0, 12. And there's a good graph. Okay, sliding over 14. Question 10c, so it's y equals 3x plus 25. I'm starting at 25 and going up, so I don't want my 25 up here where I'm going to immediately go off the graph. So let's count by 25, skip, 50, skip, 75. You could even count every single box as 25. So this is 25, this is 50, this is 75, this would be 100. So again, notice from 0 to 25, I skip 2 boxes so that every 2 boxes can count as 25. On the bottom, talking about number of hats, I'm going to go ahead and count by ones. You don't have to. So my intercept, my y-intercept is 25. 0 hats cost me $25. I add another hat. It's going up $3. So you kind of need to be careful here. I'm going up to $28. So from 25 to 50, I need to figure out what this line is in between. How much is that? So I've gone up 25 in 2 lines. So if I take 25 divided by 2, I'm actually going up 12 and a half per line. So 12 and a half from here would be 37.5. So that's just a little helpful as I add 3 here. Okay, 28 is going to be just a little bit above. Then I'd be at 31, adding another 3. Then I'd be at 34, so still not to that line. Then I'd be at 37, just below it. Again, I'm just adding 3, because every time I add 1 hat, I go up 3. All right, so I said I was at 37. So now I'm at 40, just above it. 43, 46, 49. And that's about my line. So 6.5, we are now looking at point slope form. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1 in parentheses, where we will distribute. X and y comes from any point on the line, and that is our slope. So we're going to go ahead and write this equation out right here. So y minus your y value of -3. So when I put a negative in, you can write -3, but then minus a negative goes plus plus. So we just change it to a +3. So this is always going to be a minus if you're plugging in a positive. It will change to a plus when you're plugging in a negative. Slope drops in for m, that's 1/4, times x minus my x value of 8. So I leave it negative right there. And what I have to do is I have to distribute and solve. So I'm going to get 1/4 x minus 1/4 of 8 is 2, just dividing by 4. So this side I still have y plus 3. I'm going to minus 3 now to get this in my y equals form. So I have y all by itself, 1/4 x minus 5. Okay, sliding over, y minus my y value of 4, slope is -2, x minus a -1, so I write plus 1. Distribute, that's -2x minus 2. Add the 4 to get rid of it. And I have y equals -2x plus 2. All right, y minus y value, -5, so it's plus 5. Slope here is -2/3. I know it's not a great copy. X minus, I'm going to make this plus because it was a -6. Go ahead and multiply, so it's -2/3 x. A negative times a positive is a negative. Okay, and 2/3 of 6 is 4. Minus 5 to get y by itself, so I'm going to have y equals -2/3 x. -4 minus 5 is -9. Y minus my y value of 12. Slope is 2/5. X minus x value of, slope is not 2/5. Slope is 5. I'm so used to seeing the slope as a fraction, I just grabbed that. My x value is 2/5. Okay, I'm going to distribute, so I get 5x. And when I do 5 times 2/5, First of all, it's positive times a negative, so negative I write minus. And 2/5 of 5 is just 2. And so I'm going to add 12. So my final answer here, y equals 5x, and this is positive 10. Now here I can kind of cheat. Now you could go ahead and plug in y minus 15 equals slope of 0, x minus, make it a plus for the 6. You can go ahead and solve this out and get your answer. It will work. But since I know it's a slope of 0 is a line that looks like this on a graph. Okay, it's not going up, it's not going down. It means it's going to hit, it's a horizontal line, and those are always going to be y equals just a number. That's what those equations look like. And so I can see that my y value is 15. It will always be 15 on a slope of 0 line. So right off the bat, I know my answer is y equals 15. And you don't have to show any work. You can go right to that when the slope is 0. If I went ahead and distributed here, I'm going to get 0, and I'm going to get 0. So basically, I'm going to end up with 0 on this side. And then I would add the 15. And sure enough, I get y equals 15. So you can go through the process. But once you understand that a slope of 0 is going to produce a y equals number, you just grab that number and write the equation. Okay, and number 6, y minus becomes plus 3.2. Slope is 1/2 x minus 2.4. So just dealing with some decimals here. 1/2 x, half of this is going to be 1.2. And I'm going to go ahead and minus 3.2. So my final answer says 1/2 x, and when I subtract that, it's negative 4.4. All right, we're going to step it up a little bit here. Slope of the line is 5, and the x-intercept is negative 2. So we're used to y equals mx plus b, where this is my y-intercept. This is now an x-intercept, so I can't drop this in for b in that equation. It's an x-intercept, not a y-intercept. And so I need to think about, what does this look like on a graph? So if I have a graph here and I hit the x-axis at negative 2, it's over here. And that point right there, the x value is negative 2, and the y value, I'm not up, I'm not down, it's 0. And so what they've done actually is just giving you a point, negative 2, 0, just like they were doing up here, giving you points, and they're giving you the slope. And so you're just going to work through the process like we just did. So y minus my y value, which is 0, equals slope of 5 times x minus my x value, so plus 2. The 0 just drops off, so it's y equals 5x plus 10. And I'm done because y is by itself. Okay, same idea here. Slope of the line is negative 1/3. The x-intercept is 4. So it'd be hitting on this graph over here. Positive 4, it hits the x-axis, so that's 4, 0. So y minus x value, y value is 0. Slope is negative 1/3 times x minus x value is 4, so it drops in like this. Okay, and the 0 is going to go away. So it's going to say y equals negative 1/3 x. When you multiply a negative and a negative, it is a positive. And 4 times 1/3, we're going to leave it as a fraction 4/3 because it's not a nice decimal. There's our answer. Okay, a horizontal line, okay, means the slope is 0. So you can go ahead like I showed you up here and you could plug 0 in for slope, but you can also say I know that this is y equals whatever my y value is everywhere on that. So it's just y equals 3/4. Okay, otherwise go back and plug in 0 for the slope. If it's a horizontal line, the slope is 0, and it'll get you there. Determine an equation for a line that contains 0.02, so then we also need a slope, and is parallel to the line with this equation. So this is a different line, but we're going to run parallel to it. Parallel lines will never cross, so they're going up at the same rate or they're going down at the same rate, which means they have the same slope. If they're going up at the same rate, down at the same rate, rate of change is slope. So since this line has a slope of 3/5, the parallel line to it is also going to have a slope of 3/5. And we know that this other line is going to go through 0, 2. So we're going to use that point, y minus 2. Slope is 3/5, x minus 0. All right, if I distribute, it's just 3/5 x, and then I'm going to get 0. And I have y minus 2, so I'm going to add 2 to the other side. So final answer, y equals 3/5 x plus 2. Number 11, equation of one line is this. What's the slope of the second line? They told you that the slopes are reciprocals. Okay, so the reciprocal of 7/8 is 8/7. That's the new slope. Find the equation of the line if it passes through this point. So now we know the slope is 8/7, and we're just going to use this point. So y becomes plus 10 for negative 10. Slope is 8/7, x minus 14. I don't know why I put an equal sign there, going too fast. Distribute here, so I'm going to get 8/7 x. I need to go ahead and multiply 8/7 times 14. 14 divided by 7 is 2 times 8 is going to be 16, and it's negative. I'm going to minus the 10, so I'm going to end up with a negative 26. Final answer, 8/7 x minus 26. Okay, to the back. So you think about what we've been doing here. We've had a point and a slope. So we're looking for those now in a word problem. So suburban school district had an enrollment of this many students to start with. In the year 2000, enrollment's been growing at a rate of 50 students per year. That's your slope. So first of all, we're going to write an ordered pair. I would just start with what you're given with. Our ordered pair is going to always, if you think about what this graph is going to look like, we're starting up at 7,200 students, right? And then every single year we're increasing. So this is where we're starting at 7,200. This is going to be my years. That's my x. So my x number is going to be my years. So at year 0, we're not going to say 2,000, okay, because we're going to start at year 2,000. At year 0, we're going to have 7,200 students. You also could have said year 1, so you would have had 1, comma, and then you would just add 50 students to this, so 7,250. That would be perfectly acceptable. Anything on this line will work. The slope described in this is 50, so I was going to write an equation. Okay, and it's years since 2000, so that's what I was talking about. Year 0 is going to be 2000. So y equals slope of 50x, and 7,250 is going to be my intercept. So I don't need to plug in a point. Okay, if you wanted to, you could, but I can go right to my intercept form since I have it. Then it says estimate the total enrollment they might expect for the year 2010. So we're just going to go ahead and plug 10 in here. And then add, and I don't know why I said 7,250. Hopefully you caught that when I was going through that. It should be 7,200. Yep, because that's right, 7,200. So that was a mistake on the key. It should be 7,200. So now I'm going to add 7,200 here. 50 times 10 is 500, plus the 7,200 gets you 7,700 students. So if you do look at the key, you'll notice this was a mistake because they went ahead and plugged in 10 years later, and they got this answer, which wouldn't have worked with this equation that they gave you. So that was a mistake there. Your starting point is 7,200. Okay, that's your number there. Okay, next question. 650 people attended a dance recital. When it's over, it's emptying at 125 people per 5 minutes. So the slope is 125 for 5 minutes. That's the rate of change. Let's go ahead and simplify that. When I divide, I'm going to get 25, and it's emptying, so it's negative. So my slope will be negative 25. Okay, ordered pair. We're going to be measuring this in how many minutes it's been since the recital ended. So I'm going to start at minute 0, my starting point. Okay, there are 650 people there. Basically 25 people per minute. So after 1 minute, 25 people would be leaving here. Okay, so it would be 625. That's another good example. Slope is negative 25. So my equation, y equals negative 25. M for minutes, or x for minutes. They said p and m. So people equals negative 25 times the minutes. And we started at 650. How long will it take to empty the theater? So basically, when will we get to 0 people? So we're going to plug 0 in for p, and we want to find the minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get m by itself. I'm going to minus 650 on both sides, so I get negative 650 equals negative 25m, and divide by negative 25. And so negative and a negative is a positive, and 650 divided by 25 is 26. So it's after 26 minutes solving for m. Okay, dropping down on 15. People are going to the zoo. There's a parking fee, but they told you it's just 1 car, so we're only going to pay this once. And 2 adults went to the zoo. What we don't know is the children. And so 2 adults would be $14. So I'm going to go ahead and add those two together for $20.75. That's a set cost. The 2 adults that went in plus the parking fee of one car is $20.75. Each child on top of that now is $350. So let C represent the number of children who went to the zoo, and T represent your total cost. Write an equation. And so T for total cost is going to equal $350 times the number of children plus the one number I know is not changing, $20.75. Total cost was this. That goes in for T. So $38.25 goes in for T. We want to find the number of children. We're going to solve for C. You're going to minus this on both sides. You're going to divide by 3.5, and that comes out to 5 children. Okay, lesson 6.6 now. We're still going to use our formula y minus y1, but we need a slope. It's not given to us. We're just given 2 points. So we're going to have to go back to our slope formula, which is just subtract your y's, subtract your x's. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract my y's on top here. 13 minus 4. I'm going to do 5 minus 2. So I should get 9 over 3, which simplifies to 3. So that's my slope. So now plugging into my equation, y minus, you can use either one of these points when you plug in, but you can't take an x from here and a y from here. They both, x and y, have to come from the same point. So I'm going to have y minus 4 equals, slope is 3, x minus, so I chose 4, so I have to choose the 2. I'm going to go ahead and simplify this out. This one comes out to y equals 3x minus 2 when you do so. Okay, these would all be the same, so I'm not going to go through each one here. Write an equation of the line through these 2 points, asking you to do the same thing as you're doing up here. You go ahead, you find the slope. That's going to drop in for m, and then you're going to take one of the 2 points and use it for your x and y, just like we did on 6.5. Now this one is going to ask you to check your answer by graphing the line. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through that one just so we can understand what they're asking for here. So subtracting my y's, -1 minus 3. Now I got to go the same direction, so I'm going to do 4 minus -2. So I'm going to get -4 on top. I'm going to get positive 6 here. So I'm going to get -2/3. When I plug this in my equation, y minus my y value, I'll go ahead and grab this one, plus 1, slope, -2/3, times x minus 4. So simplifying, 2/3 of 4 is going to give me 8/3. Positive, negative, and a negative is positive. 8/3 equals, I'm going to minus 1 from that, which would be 3/3 if you think about it. So that's going to leave me 5/3. You can always use your calculator there. And then what they want you to do is go ahead and graph this number, this 5/3. You're going to put that as your intercept. You're going to go down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3. And what they want you to do is make sure that you do cross through those 2 points using this equation. So starting at your intercept of 5/3, which is a little tricky to put on the graph, not going to be on the quiz, and go down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3, and then look at your line and make sure these 2 points are on it. That's what they were going for there, so no big deal there. Number 9, write an equation of the line with the x-intercept of -4. We talked about that earlier. That's the point -4, 0. A y-intercept of 5. Okay, so the big mistake people make is they want to call this 5, 0. But if this is a y-intercept of 5, the x value is actually 0, and the y value is 5. It's 0, 5. So I have these 2 points. So all they're going to ask you to do is take these 2 points and do just like you did up here. Find the slope, plug it in the equation, run it all the way through. So for the sake of time here, I'll just put the answer, but that's what you're going to get. So you have to find the slope, plug in for your x and y using either one of these, and you're good to go. Number 10, write the equation of the line produced by these values. This is from a graphing calculator. Just like we've chosen 2 points, these would be like the points 5, 5, 10, -5, 15, -5. Okay, all that stuff. You would choose any 2 of these. You would go ahead and you would find the slope, and you would go from there. And on number 11, you're given 2 points right here. And so because we can't see a clear y-intercept, we can't plug into y equals mx plus b. We'd be guessing at that intercept. So we have to use the 2 points that are given to us. So this point is -1, -4. And this point here is 6, -3. So we'd have to use these 2 points. You would find the slope first, so subtract your y's, and then subtract your x's in the same direction. So -4 minus -3, that goes plus plus. That's negative 1. Negative 1 minus 6. It's negative 7. Two negatives make a positive, so my slope is 1/7. And then I would plug into my equation, y minus, I'm going to grab this one, becomes a positive 4. Slope is 1/7. X minus becomes positive 1. And I would simplify this all the way out, distribute, subtract the 4. Final answer here looks like this. And just to give you some final answers, these are all pretty much the same process, so we don't need to go through this process over and over and over. But to check some answers, you'd end up with negative 2x plus 15 after you ran the slopes here. For instance, y minus y, 5 minus negative 5 becomes plus 5. 5 minus 10. Okay, and you'd have 10 here, and you'd have negative 5 here. Divide, that's a slope of negative 2. You can see there's your slope of negative 2. You'd plug into your y minus, and grab 5. Slope is negative 2. X minus, I'm going to grab 5 again here. Simplify it out, and we'd end up here. So just writing up to some of the other ones up here, just to get you some answers. This was negative 1/2 x. And these were all just on your answer key. Again, fractions over here, let your calculator handle it. You would still have to do y minus y and x minus x, find your slope, plug it into the equation like we did on all of those.